Welcome to Reset to Healthier Relationships, Sunday night at 9. I am your host, Coach Glenda. I am really glad you're here. If you never felt like you're repeating something, if you ever felt like you were repeating something you didn't choose, tonight is for you. Let's be honest. Sometimes we look up and realize we're living what we said we never would. Tonight, we're going to talk about that gently. All right. Good evening. I'm so happy to see everyone. We're going to let a few people in real quick here. In tonight's session of Sunday Night at Night, I'm going to answer the question of why do I keep repeating the same relationship patterns and how do I finally break the cycle? Why do I keep repeating the same relationship patterns and how do I finally break the cycle? I know that that does not only apply to me and Mr. Carpenter, that probably applies to several of us on tonight, but we are going to talk about that a little more. We're going to dive in deeper in the topic. So tonight's topic, you guys, is breaking generational patterns. And I know a lot of times that when we talk about the different topics on Sunday night at 9, I know that not only myself, but Mr. Carpenter, we reflect back on past experiences. And I know that for myself, as well as Mr. Carpenter, we recall things that happened in our childhood, as well as past relationships, as well as past our past marriage. So I know that, like I said, it doesn't just apply to us. I believe with all my heart it applies to several of us on the call tonight. Okay, if this is your first time here, welcome. It's so glad to see you. And if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you hit the subscribe button and ring the bell so you to be the first to know when we post new content. Thank you so much.
Glenda, tonight's topic is something that we all know a lot about. And we don't realize that because a lot of times we think we're doing what's norm. We think we're doing what we saw mama did, we saw what auntie did, and we saw our friends did. We saw the people across the street do it. So that's where we got it from. So we learned those patterns there. And, why do I keep repeating the same patterns? And how do I finally break the cycle? And what is saying that you're in what's called a drift? You're drifting through life, drifting through relationships, drifting through opportunities, drifting through things. And you don't understand, well, you do understand, but you don't understand the pattern in the fact that you're drifting and it becomes so normal in your life. Um, we we are a creature of habit anyway. So when we got a pattern and we're a creature of habit, that cycle never stops. But you wake up one day and look in the mirror and say, I don't want this anymore. I'm not going to take this anymore. This is not who I see for myself, and that's not what I'm going to do. So I'm going to change. So let the change be you for your family, for your relationship. Set the example. And it starts tonight. And tonight, all we want you to do is be aware and ask yourself, where can I break those patterns? How can I do better? I want better. How can I show better? All right. Now, Glenda, I mean to go down a rabbit hole, but I can get excited about this topic because this topic is not so much, well, it is a relationship topic, but it's also a life topic. This is both life skills and this is both relationship. Because when you're in patterns, it could be that the way you treat your family, it could be the way you treat your neighbor, it could be the way you treat your boo, it could be the way you treat your sister or brother. So this is what it's talking about. We're talking about life itself, and we're talking about relationships. Glenda?
Okay, so we're going to kick off with a few examples just to, open up the floor for participation and give you some examples to see if they apply to you or if you can relate to them. All right. So the first illustration is Mama stayed, so I stayed. Tasha grew up watching her mother stay in relationships where she wasn't heard. Now, in her own relationship, she finds herself staying silent, avoiding conflict, overcompensating. She realizes, I thought I was being loyal, but I was repeating what I saw. I'm going to read it one more time. Mama stayed, so I stayed. Tasha grew up watching her mother stay in relationships where she wasn't heard. Now, in her own relationship, she finds herself staying silent, avoiding conflict, overcompensating. She realizes, I thought I was being loyal, but I was repeating what I saw. Now, how many of us can think about a past relationship or your past marriage where you saw yourself after the fact, you was repeating what you saw your parents or another relative had did in their relationship?
I'll start it off.
Okay.
You know, all of us have seen that. And if the average age on this call is 30 and up. And I think that sweet spot on this call is maybe 45 to 75. That's a sweet spot for us.
Okay.
So we all came to the fact that we saw our parents or our neighbors, we saw how they performed, what they did, and we followed. And back then, mom was taught you stay no matter what. That man is the head of the house, and what he says goes. If he rules. You know, if you look at television shows of those times, Father Knows Best. You know, the Cosby, all those shows, the dad kind of set the tempo for the family. So the mom, she didn't know nothing but stay. You know, there's some of us that been in relationships, we didn't know we could get out. We didn't know we could just say, stop, enough, I'm done. We didn't know that. Mm-hmm. So we could, because we were trained in those patterns. So I've seen it. I've seen it in my own household. I've seen it with my mom and my father. I've seen it with my neighbors. I've seen it with my friends' families. So how do we stop it? Let's talk about it. I'm the only one saw it.
Good evening.
Hi, Annette.
Hey, so I realized in thinking back, I had a relationship where the acts that I had seen in life before were happening to me, but I didn't realize that. But I was accepting it, and I continued to accept it until the one day when something happened in the relationship that made me look in the mirror. And when I looked in the mirror, I saw myself, and I realized that I was repeating a pattern or accepting a pattern of life that I had seen and didn't like. And I knew I didn't like it. And I said, well, my goodness gracious, I'm living that same life.
Right.
Excuse me. Mm-hmm. So I had to consciously make a change. And at that particular moment, I made the change because I said, oh my God, I've been living this way. And I didn't realize it was what I had truly disliked for so long in my life. And then I said, but I'm living it, and I had accepted it. So after realizing it, I made a change. And for me to do it, it was just go ahead on, just cut the ties, do it. That was what needed to be done. Not a day longer, just do it. That was it.
So you made the change. You shifted and made the change in your relationship.
Yes. Immediately after realizing it.
Correct.
But
Correct.
She said it wasn't, and that was, I applaud Annette for being able to make that shift and change. But the key wasn't that she made that shift and change. The key was she recognized.
Well, of course, yeah.
That was the big key. She recognized.
Yeah.
And once she recognized that it wasn't what she liked, it wasn't what she wanted, and it wasn't what she was going to continue, she flipped that switch off. Enough's enough. So the first step is you have to recognize, so great job. And then you make the changes, because sometimes if you don't know, you just don't know.
Right. I know I know for myself, I used to say when I break up with someone or when a relationship goes bad, people don't see really how they're treating the other person. They never see themselves. But when you do look in the mirror and you recognize your downfalls and your shortfalls and where you could do better, what is that saying? They say, when you know better, you do better. So when you recognize that there was an issue and you were repeating patterns from your past, you made a change. So that's good. It's really good.
Once again, Glenda, you said something there. You said that the person that's doing the damage to your the defender in the relationship, the one that's creating the chaos or doing whatever,
Correct.
You saying they are doing it. But you got to realize they may be trained the same way. They might have saw their dad or their mom do it. So in
Correct.
their mind, that's normal. So
Right.
They're not intentionally trying to treat you bad. Is they doing what they know, and they also are in that drift in life. They're
Right.
doing the
But
same
until
thing
they
they
see or until they recognize that they're doing something wrong or repeating a habit, they're going to continue.
Correct. And that's the key, because we all have seen it. We get in a rut, and sometimes people stay in those relationships, even though they see it's not beneficial to them. It's what they know.
Right.
And the other spouse or the other member can say, look, honey, I can't take this anymore. Please, you got to change. And they may say, well, I'll change. They may verbalize their change, but they're not going to change because they don't know how to change. So they're going to continue. You're going to continue to go back to that same thing. And if you stay there and say, well, I love Johnny, or I love Sally, or I love them, and maybe to get better. 5 years, 10 years, maybe to get better. And that's how we get caught in the drift. Audience, how do you recognize and how do you handle that? What are some of the steps? What do you do? Love doesn't keep a relationship. You're correct. Love don't. Love might start it. Infatuation and feeling may start it, but the feeling don't. Now, a lot of people say true love is a choice. Now, some people say love is a choice. Some people say love is a feeling. Mm-hmm. But if love is a choice, then it has more glue than love is a feeling. Because I can be feeling good about you today and feel bad about you tomorrow. And it all depends whether it's a good day, how long I'm going to stay. What did Sharon put?
You don't want to know what I think.
Yes, we do. What do you think, Sharon? Share. Sharon, you've been quiet for the last few weeks, Sharon, so share.
No, I haven't been quiet. It's just, I believe this day and time, people don't believe nothing until they don't have no choice but to believe it. So sometimes you got to do drastic things to make them understand. Because other than that, they're not going to take you serious.
So it's beyond saying, wait, stop, red flag. You got to do drastic. Now, what's drastic, so I'll know?
I mean, whatever you know that their fear is, or whatever you think, you know what I'm saying? Like that,
Got it. It's situational. So you're saying you have to know the person.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Any more comments? Any more people that have seen this, worked this, or have come up with some solutions, or has a comment or suggestion about this?
Well, you can always nip it in the bud when you start You know, I feel as if you can when you see or notice bad behaviors, you should always you should always say something immediately. You know, we talk a lot about being open and honest in our communication. And I feel that over the past 2, 3 years now, being open and honest in communication is very vital in today's relationships because when you sit there and you take stuff and let the other party know what this bothers me, or this used to happen in my past, or when I used to live with my parents and I didn't care for it then and I'm not caring for it now. So when you speak up, it should make a difference. But however, if the person doesn't see anything that they're doing wrong, they're really not gonna immediately make a change. So my biggest thing is I know that when I saw patterns in my relationships from past family traumas, I used to, I did keep quiet, but as I got older, I started to speak up. But then when I noticed that I wasn't being heard or taken seriously, it felt as if it was falling on deaf ears. I was like, okay, well, I started to fall back. It doesn't take me much to fall back in relationships because I noticed even before reset, I am important. I love me some me. Trust me, I love me some me. And I learned a lot from doing reset over the past few years. And with doing reset, I learned that I deserve to be a priority. So, with that being said, being open and honest in your communication and letting the other person know what they're doing to you makes you uncomfortable, you don't like it, and you need to make some hard decisions right there because if they don't see anything wrong and they don't make any changes immediately, that behavior may continue.
I saw in the chat, somebody put in the chat, what keeps a relationship then? I saw that in the chat a few minutes ago. And let's put the kickstand there for a minute because that's very deep and very interesting. Now I can come off the cuff and tell you the best like communication, trust. I can tell you all those things, but first I want to take you back to the Bible first because when there's a thing called a law of first mention. The law first mention is when this thing first was addressed? When did it first come into the world? When was it first publicized? Or when was it first created? And the very first way it was created in the Christian Bible with Christ when they said the tenets of a Christian. They said, I'm not the religious person in the world, so please, bear with me a little bit if I don't get it right. But what it said, I think it's 9 tenets of being a Christian, and I think it's faith, long suffering, joy, meekness, forbearance. Oh man. Anybody that want to help me out? Anybody know that?
What do you call it again? What are you trying to list out?
It's the Christian spirit. When the spirit come on you in a Christian life, and what they said are the characteristics of a Christian.
Are you talking about the fruits of the spirit?
Yes, that could be it. That's it. When Paul wrote the letter to the Ephesians, or when he wrote one of those letters, and what letters he was explaining the Christian life to the Gentiles, and that's what he said. And can you pull it up so I can say the right thing? And I'm no more religious than anybody else, but that's the very first place where this question that was asked in the chat was mentioned. And then after we cover, go ahead, Sharon.
Oh, I think the number one key is that you got to have that compassion for one another. You got to have some compassion because if you don't, you there's nothing going to change. You got to be able to have that compassion, that empathy and stuff. I think that's important.
Okay, compassion is great. All right, Glenda, can you read that so everybody know what they says? What it said in the Bible, because that's the first place it was mentioned pretty much.
So you want me to read the list off or what it says in the Bible?
Either one, whichever you're more comfortable with.
Well, it says I'll read the list. They said love, peace, kindness, faithfulness, joy, patience, goodness, gentleness.
Seems like something's missing. That
It's
forbearance.
8.
Okay, you ain't heard forbearance, and I didn't hear meekness. All that's in there. It's supposed to be in there.
Okay, give me a second.
Yeah, I'm not an expert, but I know someone's supposed to be in it.
Okay, I got kindness, got faithfulness, self-control.
I don't remember that one. I don't think that I don't
Yeah.
know that one. Well, I tell you what. Towards the end, somebody in the audience can look that up for us, and towards the end, kind of bring that in, because that's the first mention of that. And Sharon said, right, compassion. And let me give you this, and then we'll talk about it, because we know communication, all those things are part of it. But let's talk about the 5 key elements of adult relationship. So that that's some of what this is all about. And the very first one is attention. You gotta have attention. You gotta notice. You gotta want to be a part of somebody's life. You gotta have attention on it. Acceptance. Acceptance is very, very important. You gotta accept the person, who they are, where they are, and how they are. And some people might call that unconditional love. Appreciation. And appreciation, I think God came out with the call the love language. Well, he talked about appreciation in there. He talked about the love language and the 5 love languages. That could be that. And the five love languages, words of affirmation, service. Then it's receiving and giving gifts. It's quality time. It's physical contact. So those are the appreciation things. And affection. We all want to feel emotional and physically stimulated. And allowing your partner to be themselves.
Yes.
Let them live too. Let them. It's not about control or manipulation. Give them space and give them time, because they need, just as well they need time with you, they need a time away from you too. And when women in a relationship need to have women friends, men in a relationship need to have men friends. So these are the things. Oh, somebody got it in. What is it now? Go ahead,
okay. It's in Galatians 5:22-23. For the Bible, it says love, joy, peace, forbearance.
That's it.
Kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control.
That's it. You said self-control was right. I missed that one. And that's the first where it was mentioned there in the Bible, where it gave you the fruits of the Spirit and it told you how to love. So that's the first answer of that question that was in there. And now we're talking about the other parts of it. And I just gave you the five key elements of adult relationships. And I said they're attention, acceptance, appreciation, affection, and allowing. And also I even told you the love languages, because you got to know how to talk to your person, to whoever you love, and you got to know what they want out of life. How do they want to be loved? How do they want to be appreciated? You can't say, hey, I want to love you this way, so here's what I'm gonna do, and you got to accept it or don't accept it. No. You've got to see what their love language is, and whether it's words of affection. Hey, dear, I appreciate what you're doing. Hey, I love the support you're giving. I love how you've taken time, and I can see your effort. And then, service provided. You got to do things. You got to help with the chores. You got to help with the bills or help with tasks around the house. You got to let them know you care. Show you care. And everybody loves receiving gifts. Receiving gifts, whether it's something big or whether it's small. Whether Christmas is a Mercedes out in the driveway with a bow on it, or whether it's flowers after you come home from the grocery store. Whatever that is, everybody likes to receive gifts. And if you ask people what's the number one thing they want out of a relationship, a lot of people say time. Quality time. Just spend the time. You spend the time, we'll make it work. We don't have to have all this. We don't have to go all this. Spend the time with me and we'll figure it out along the way. And the last love language, physical touch. You know, hey, everybody want to be stimulated, whether it's physical, whether it's emotional, whether it's sexual. Help me out there. And those are the things. Any questions, or did I answer that for whoever put it in the chat, or do we need to go deeper on that?
Gigi responded and said it's a partnership.
That's it. You're right. It's both of you guys are in the union together, and both of you have responsibilities to each other and responsibilities to yourself. Because if you lose yourself in a relationship, you just messed up.
Absolutely.
You got to have responsibility to yourself and to your partner. And it's 50-50. I'm not saying 50-50 because that's not the way it is. It's situational. Sometimes you got to give a little bit more than the other one, and sometimes the other one give a little bit more than you. It's situational. You have to do what's best for the union you have. Because let's say me and Glenda got a relationship. Glenda may be smarter than me with finances. So why am I going to try to take the finance for her and run the finances where she's better? That's her strength. Where my strength may be cooking. So if my strength's cooking, why am I going to let her try to make these major meals when I should be making these major meals? It's situational. Okay.
All right. Is there any other comments on that example before we move on to our second example?
Yes. I would like to say something. I think as people in every relationship, not just a partnership as far as intimacy or marriage or whatever, I think in every relationship, we should try to, those two things, control and manipulation. I think people use that often. And I think that is the first thing we do. We don't use kindness. We don't use gentleness or love. We use control and manipulation because we want something. So we're going to try to figure out from the beginning, what do we need to do to get it? Versus, and we're going to manipulate to get it. That's what we first do, I believe. And I think that's where our mindset should really change. I think our mindset should change to think about just goodness. We should want goodness. What do I need to do to get goodness out of this relationship from this individual, this kid, this teacher, this preacher, this brother, this sister, whatever? The first thing I think I will look for, well, we also need to keep the peace. Those things are important. But I think even me, and including me, I think the first thing we used to think is, how do I control this situation? Let me see what I need to do to get what I want. That type of thing. So I think as far as like reset to relationships, I think for me, I appreciate it because it's making me think of a lot of things. It's making me put myself in check, because like I say, I want to fight. I'm a fighter. So you screwed me over. I'm ready to fight you. Period. That's just it. And we're going to get there. So I think it's a good thing. But for me, I think when we say the control and manipulation, I think that's a good thing.
A question for the audience, not so much for Annette, but the audience. Why do people control? Because Annette said because they want something out of you. Are there any other reasons why people can try to have control of the relationship or try to control other people other than wanting something out of you? Could it be the other person is weak and in order for them to feel they measure up, feel they measure up is to control you because they're weak and they feel they control you, it gives them strength.
I was gonna say that because some people it's like they try to make you accept they're doing without and taking their part of the responsibility out of it. They try to make you think that it's not them, it may be you, but when they know all along it's them.
You are right about that. And they never see themselves in the situation. They don't see their fault, their error, and they big on pointing the finger and putting blame on someone else.
Yes.
if we take the curtain now or look behind the curtain in all of our lives on this call or on this episode right now, we would all be able to say we have something in our closet. We have been on both sides of that equation in relationships, where the pattern, have we been the one that perpetuate the pattern and kept it rolling, or we were the ones that were suffered in that pattern, and we knew we need to get out, but we didn't know how to get out. And I'll be one of the first ones to let you go behind the curtain in my life. When I first got married young, I got married prom night in high school, and I was married 27 years. And one of the first things I know, one of my friends says, "Hey, let's ride the motorcycles to Baltimore." We lived in Richmond at the time, and my friend said, "Let's go to Baltimore. Let's get on a motorcycle and go to Baltimore." I said, "Okay." I got on a motorcycle to Baltimore. So I think I stayed out or a little bit longer than I should have, because I should have came home, but it was so late, so I came on the next day. Now, we didn't do nothing but just ride around and have fun. But when I came home, I opened the door, my wife started beating me with a broomstick. I said, "What the heck?" And I felt I was wrong, so I took it. That pattern continued. I started getting whippings all the time. I had it at one time I said, "Hey, enough's enough. I'm not going to do this," because I had been in martial arts, and I always promised myself that I would not hit a woman because I saw my mom beat my dad. I saw my dad beat my mom down every weekend. So I promised myself I'd never hit a woman. So, and I was a martial artist at the time. So those are the two reasons why I didn't do anything and fight back. But one day I had enough of it, and I fought back, or I made a gesture that I was going to fight back, and that ended that. But that pattern went on for years before I became man enough or wised up and stopped it. So this topic tonight seemed like a small or a simple topic, but we all have been abused in patterns.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
It's a little bit off from what we were talking about, but it was something that just came to my head. Let's say, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a relationship, like personal relationship. It could be a friendship or workmate or whatever. If a person has no self-respect for their self, and you know what I'm saying, they have no self-respect for themselves, then and they don't see where their disrespectfulness is showing that they don't have no respect for themselves. Is that possible?
Yes, of course. Of course. A lot of times people not so much respect for themselves, they get numb. They get numb to themselves. They get numb to their own feelings. So they don't have no feelings for themselves. And sometimes they don't have feelings for themselves. Watch out. They got less feelings for you. So exactly. If you're in that trap, it's really bad. And some people treat themselves so bad because they don't think they deserve better. They've seen that in their parents, they've seen in their friends. So they don't respect their own self because they don't think they don't deserve better. So that's very common.
Those are the ones that usually sabotage their relationships,
correct,
with another partner or even with family. And you have to, you know how they say you have to be the bigger person? You have to be the bigger person to overlook some of the behavior, especially I'll say right now with family. Because you can't get another mom or dad. Most people, they have one mom and dad. Sometimes they're blessed to have multiple, but at the same time too, you can't replace them. And I know for myself, I don't agree with everything my parents say, and they're very high up in the church, but I'll say my piece respectfully and kindly, and I have self-control, but I'm grown. I just take it in, I just like, okay, I can't wait to get back on the plane or in the car to go home. But go ahead.
Go ahead, Sharon. I'm sorry. That was the point I was trying to make. If they have no self-respect for themselves, and you still maybe tolerate them or whatever, it's not because you feel like you're in danger or they endanger you. It's just you realize they have no self-respect for themselves. So how can they have respect for anyone else?
Right.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
So, when I was coming up as a kid, young girl, I noticed and I saw something with my aunt and uncle. My aunt was not allowed to go outside. She had to stay in the house. If you would go to her home, she would part the door just a little bit, not even to really show her body, but more or less to show her face, to let you know that you can't come in. She wasn't coming out. And she had daughters, and they would stay in the house. And it went on a long, long time, and I never knew why, but I always kept going back to knock on that door. And every time I kept getting the same response. My uncle, I could see him out, but I could never see my aunt or her daughters out. And as I got older, I realized my uncle, I enjoyed talking to him. He would talk to me so friendly and free. But it happened that my aunt stayed there until her daughters got old enough to leave the house. And when they got old enough to leave the house, they took her too. They made her go with them. She didn't want to go, but they wouldn't leave her. And that was the only way that she got away from my uncle. I I don't think, and now that was control and manipulation, but I also think that was psychoticness.
Mm.
I think he was crazy, but maybe when he talked to me, I didn't sense crazy. I didn't feel crazy. I just always thought in my head he was crazy. So my thing of it is sometimes we got to realize where a person's mindset is too in a relationship.
Mm.
So if you got a crazy person ruling you or controlling you, what you afraid. You got to make a break. You got to think about your safety. You go to the hospital now or somewhere, they say, do you feel safe at home?
Right. Correct.
So if you don't feel safe at home, you got to tell somebody. She could have told me when I came to the door, can you tell somebody to help me? Boy, I would have went running. I would have got somebody to help you. She need help. But my thing of it is in relationships, we got to evaluate the people that we deal with as well. We just
Oh, you
can't
thought
let
about that?
ourselves just say, okay, I married you or I'm with you and you was this way, but you changed. Things change. So we have to protect ourselves too in relationships. That's all I got to say.
Your uncle had narcissistic tendencies.
Cool.
Yeah.
I thought he
You,
was just psychotic, crazy.
and he could have been crazy too, because in the African American community, we didn't go to mental. We didn't seek mental support. We didn't seek a counselor or a therapist. We just went to the bottom. we we didn't do it. So a lot of stuff might have been those issues back then, and the patterns. He might have saw his father do it, or he might have got some of that from his father. He
Right.
probably added on more himself. So that's those cycles we got to break. And luckily, the daughters saw that they didn't want the life for themselves nor for their mother, so they broke the pattern. So that's awesome. So that's awesome they did that, and I'm glad you saw that. So that way you begin to notice things that you weren't going to take.
Yeah, someone put in the chat, jealousy may have been an issue.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. Let's go. I think we've got this one. I think we didn't did good with this. This. So let's go to number two. I think we didn't shake this one out pretty good.
All right. So our
Number
example
two.
number 2 is Auntie carried everything. Auntie carried everything. Monique watched her aunt raise kids, manage the home, and carry emotional weight alone. Now she overgives, doesn't ask for help, feels resentful, but keeps going. Her realization, I didn't learn partnership, I learned survival. I'm going to read the example one more time. Auntie carried everything. Monique watched her aunt raise kids, manage the home, and carry emotional weight alone. Now she overgives, doesn't ask for help, feels resentful, but keeps going. Her realization is I didn't learn partnership, I learned survival.
Ooh, I don't want to be the first one to talk about that. Anybody want to talk about that before I get in? All right, I'll get in then. That's black. I think that's Black Woman 101. I've seen this so many times. I think this Black Woman 101 because traditionally society has put a strain on African American women and Black women in the fact that they let me say this the right way. A large percentage of our African American kids are raised in single parents homes.
Correct.
And only one parent, and the majority of the time that one parent is a mother, a Black mother. And that Black mother has to survive, not so much for herself, but for her children too. So that's why this become a strain. And I could give you all kind of reasons I could tell you because so many Black people go to jail. I mean, Black men are in jail. I can tell you because Black men aren't as employed as white males are. I could give you a bunch of reasons. It could be stereotype. I could tell you a bunch of things. But the bottom line is it happens, and it happens every day. So let's talk about this. Let's talk about this one. And the reason why I say let's talk about this one, I'm sure that we have maybe six ladies on the call, or six ladies on the call. I'm sure one of you or all of you see the same situation played out in yourself. You survived. Are you smiling, Glenda? Did I hit a nerve? I'm sorry. I apologize.
I will consider myself a survivor. And, you know, I wasn't taught partnership. My grandmother, she did everything. She did everything. She raised her kids, her grandkids. She managed a home and she carried a lot of stuff. She kept a lot of stuff to herself. So you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And I used to, but not today. I don't overgive, but I used to overgive. And I very rarely asked for help back in the day. And at times I did feel resentful, but at the same time, you know, when you look at it in retrospect, you think about it, well, how can you be resentful when you didn't really ask for help? And the way I was thinking was people don't volunteer anymore. You can't, just like if you see me with my hands full, you won't even ask, can you help carry the groceries in? Or if something falls, you won't ask, can I assist you and pick that up? But I did once upon a time, I felt resentful, but I kept going. And I would say, I won't say I'm a better person for it, but I didn't let it stop me from having healthy relationships. I didn't let it hinder me or hold me back. But you're right. I can see that play out. It has played out in my past, but as of 2026, that's not the case. I have overcome that hurdle in my life.
Anyone else want to comment on this? Because this, I'm not a Black woman, so I can only tell you what I saw and what I seen and what I know. So you want to say something, Sharon?
Yes. I think a lot of mistakes that Black women make is going into the relationship, trying to be a robot and do all of that because they think that's going to make the man look at them like the perfect girl or whatever, and the role continues. That's totally not me. That's not me at all. I am not Hazel.
Any more comments on this one?
Your honesty is so wonderful.
And the reason why I say that, there's two parts of this. One part is that when you're raising your kids and you do that and you survive, and then once you get out the relationship, or if you're in a relationship, once you get out of the relationship, I found out where a lot of like women don't want to date, or don't want to fall in love again, or don't want to be married again. They just happily and blissfully being single, because they said, I'm not going to open that door up again at all. I'm just going to be blissful single. I stay over here by myself. They stay there by themselves, and everybody's happy. And that's the other side of that coin I see happening. Any comments about that side of the coin? We got any blissfully single ladies on the line?
I do not subscribe to that.
Explain, because I didn't quite hear what you said, Gigi.
I do not subscribe to being alone.
Okay.
I do not.
But have you seen it or witnessed it?
I've seen a lot of it, and I have an aunt that's that way. But I desire another relationship, a healthy relationship, and I desire marriage, and that's what I do.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that, Gigi. That's awesome.
Sharon said she's blissful.
Blissfully single. And that's what's happening. So there's two sides of that. And that how do we eventually fix that? How do we eventually, not so much fix, but how do we eventually address that in a more healthier way? We're not going to do it on this call tonight, so I know that, right? And on this night, but that's something that we need to consider as a culture. That's something we may need to look into, because something has to change.
Now, when you say fix it, what are you talking? Fix what?
Well, right now, society where a large percentage of African American males, or well, not large, but a large percent of the males in prison are African American males. So if you ask a Black woman now, is there a shortage of Black males available to date in a dating pool? What would be the answer, Glenda?
You'd probably say yes.
Okay, so that's what I'm saying. So if women feel there's a shortage of Black men because of whatever reasons, so that's what we're talking about. That's what we're talking about. And a lot of women say, I won't date nobody when in jail. I won't date a felon. I won't date this and date that. And a lot of times some Black males, the system got them. Because a lot of, when I was in Detroit, years ago. And I heard people talking, because I was wondering why crime was so bad. And I was saying, and matter of fact, one place I was at, they called it lawless. They said, police don't even come down there.
Wow.
And I asked the guys, why it's so bad here? They told me that's all they got. They said they don't have a job, they don't have income. That's all they got is crime. That's the only way they can take care of themselves and their family. Mm-hmm. So when you start looking at it like that, something has to change.
Right.
So. All right, Glenda. I'm sorry. I'll go down there and give it back to you.
All right. Do you guys have any additional questions, comments about Auntie Carrie and everything?
Would you read that scenario one more time?
Absolutely. Monique watched her aunt raise kids, manage the home, and carry emotional weight alone. Now she overgives, doesn't ask for help, feels resentful, but keeps going. Her realization, I didn't learn partnership, I learned survival.
So would we say that's Monique, or would we say this is the aunt that learned the survival?
No, Monique.
Monique. Okay, so it's Monique. Okay.
Because so Monique is the aunt to somebody else. Her aunt.
Right.
Okay, so Monique is the one that has developed the pattern.
Correct.
Okay.
No. Her aunt is. Monique watched her aunt raise the kids.
But
So
now, but it says, Mr. Carpenter, now
mhm.
she, who is she referring to? Her aunt or Monique?
That's right.
Where you got? Oh, now she. Oh, yeah, you're right. So it's Monique. I'm sorry. You're right. It's Monique.
Okay.
Yeah, she's following the pattern of her auntie.
Okay.
So right there's two levels of that. And and also patterns. I remember when I went to school, I went to Edwards Walters in Jacksonville, Florida. And there was a housing complex there, public assistance. And it was four generations of the same family that was in that subsidized housing complex. Four generations. So that pattern wasn't broken. That pattern went on and on and on. So when you look at patterns, we're what we see and what we do. So that bothered me the whole time. So that's why I've got involved with youth and community development, because I said somebody got to change this, and that's one reason why I'm here on Reset with Glenda, because somebody got to change this. We got to start somewhere.
But
And
you know what?
but
Oh,
Sharon,
I'm sorry. No. Go ahead, finish first.
no, I'm finished. Go ahead.
What you say? Okay, when you make a statement, that's all we know, so that's what we do. Okay, back long in the old days or whatever, I can see that really being all the way
Right,
true.
right.
Now it's too much education out here. There's too much education. The world has changed. So now, if they choose that route, either something forced them to have to take that route, or they wanted to.
Oh, that's all they saw, and that's all they
And that's
know.
all. Well, I'm not still agreeing with that because it's too much. It's too much education, whether it's TV, social media. You know what I'm saying? You got to have a desire. You got to have a desire to want to break the cycle. First of all,
Mm-hmm. And Sharon, a lot is resources too, Sharon. If you look at a lot of urban inner city communities,
Mhm.
you'll see that a lot of families don't have money. It's no
Yeah,
income.
I agree. It's money. Yeah, I agree with that on that level.
And and sometimes money will make you a prisoner of your situation.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
All right,
I
Glenda.
I've got something to say about
Mm-hmm.
that. With the inner city youth that I deal with on occasion here in Alabama, a lot of the children don't know about the resources. Their parents are not well educated enough to know that there are programs, that there are educational opportunities out there for them to get into, to get out of the system. And then again, some of the people that's in the system, by you saying four generations, nobody has ever told them that, hey, you can get out of this. I mean, if you're a single parent, you get more money for education. And again, these people don't know about that. And my job um, is sterile processing. I take that and go into the school systems and talk to different health science classes about this opportunity to work while they're in school or to make a career out of it. So, in looking at what's happening in the Section 8 or public housing, it may be that they don't know what to do or they don't know how to get out.
And that's true. Gigi, I applaud you for giving us that. That is so true.
You know what, Rufus?
Yes, sir.
I was being quiet, but I was late getting on. I apologize. But in society has a lot to do with it as well. The government has a big part to play in that because it's not always about the money. It's about the individual having the desire to go out and get what they want. Because when I say the government got a lot to do in society, when I moved to Pittsburgh some years ago, when I got up there, it was all about Section 8. I lay there, well, a female will lay there, and she'll figure it up and do the math in her head. The more kids I got, the less I gotta pay, the more money they give me. They got females in Section 8 in houses with the house built better than a mansion. They ain't paying no money. They get caught up. You talking about the generations in the Section 8 and stuff in the housing?
Mm-hmm.
Why would I want to go? I'm just put it out there mathematical wise.
Mm-hmm.
Why would I go to work, put 48 hours in, when I could sit home with my kids in a 4-bedroom and get money, get food stamps, and get all that? They can get caught up in that society, that cycle of that. You understand? I get
Uh-huh.
just as much as just stay home. Females will tell you, young females anyway, will tell you that all the time. Well, I gotta work. I ain't gotta work. I got kids. Uncle Sam will take care of my shit. They got Medicare. I mean Medicaid. They got Section 8. They got food stamps. What else they need? They give you expenses for the travel to get them back and forth to the doctor. Why would they have to work? Why would they want to work? Does that make sense?
Anybody want to answer that? Anybody want to weigh in on that before I weigh in on it?
I would just like to say that that's a cycle that needs to be broken, because to be able to support yourself and not need the system in that manner, that's a beautiful thing. So I think that's a cycle that needs to be broken. That's all.
Well, I look at it like this. You talking about they can just sit back and have some kids. Who the hell want to deal with all them kids?
Well, the thing is, well, let me ask you this. Let me ask you all this. Because, like I said, when I got to Pittsburgh, it was nothing for a lady to have 3 kids and be in a 4-bedroom apartment or townhouse, and Uncle Sam paying for it. Okay? Think about it. Why would you go out there and work?
Because you got to deal with all them damn kids. Shit.
Them kids are, you only dealing with it for certain hours because they're in school or in daycare.
That's until they go to
Oh, no,
school.
it don't work that way. Mm-mm.
And
No,
then they gotta come back home. They don't stay there overnight.
And then you got to deal with this.
No, they do come home, but think about it now. Babysitters, I guarantee you, because the females that I've seen that's doing that, they still in highly, I mean, tremendously in the club scene. So somebody's watching them other than them, because they going out to the clubs. They're never home no way.
I'll take the job.
I know. See, right now, I'm gonna be honest with you. We're grown. We're past that stage, so we're looking at it differently. We're not looking at it as if we were their age, but that's how they think.
Well, I don't know, because when I was a teenager or a kid, or you were not really responsible or mature, I didn't see it that way. I felt like the last thing I was going to do is try to have a baby by somebody. Because I got to sit home with the baby. I'm trying to be out there like they are.
Right, that's how you saw it, but you did see what I'm talking about, though.
Yeah, to a certain extent, yes. But that wasn't me.
You saw it. You just chose to go a different route.
Yeah.
We have 2 minutes.
Talking about the shortage of men. We're talking about the shortage of men because of jail. You know, there's just as many females, black, in the jail system, in the prison system as well.
This is true.
Yeah, we're getting to the last 2 minutes of this, and I can't let us in without saying some people need the assistance. Some people need it, because we're not knocking people in assistance that's getting assistance. So we don't want to say that is bad. What we want to say, there are some people that needs it, and those that needs it, I'm glad that it's out there for them. Now, do we need to police up a little bit better on the culture of our families and our society? Yes, I agree there. But we're not knocking assistance, because sometimes it's needed, and when it's needed, it's a great thing. But our thing has to be that we have to change our culture. That's where I think that community development part is, where we have to start with our youth, and we build from our youth to change it. All right, Glenda, let me turn it over to you so we can close this one out.
Okay. As always, I thank everyone for showing up and the sacrifice that they made for joining us on Sunday night at 9. In my closing, you don't have to fix everything tonight. Just notice, just pause, just begin. It stops with you, one choice at a time. You are not stuck, you're aware. And awareness is where everything starts to shift. I'll see you next Sunday night at 9. You guys have a wonderful week coming up, and you take care.
Y'all too. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody. Thanks, everybody. Great comments tonight. You guys are awesome, man. I'm telling